All right, Emily, what are you looking at?
All right, well, I actually want to start by putting this headline up on the screen. This is from the Washington Post, and you may actually be relieved by what you see or what you're hearing. So I just want to warn you that it could be false hope. Ex-Congresswoman Liz Cheney, says this tweet from the Washington Post, offered a blunt assessment of her former profession Monday night. Quote, "What we've done in our politics is create a situation where we're electing idiots." I know, it's perfect, right? Liz Cheney has finally come to the realization, has finally had a glimmer of self-awareness about her family. Of course, I'm kidding. She's talking about other people. She's not one of the idiots. She would never count herself among this class of idiots, which absolutely exists. Actually, at the Federalist for a while, we had stickers with a great Ben Domenech quote that said, "Consider the possibility we are led by idiots." That doesn't just apply to government. That also applies to the business sector, the media sector. It's all true across the board. And lest you think Liz Cheney has finally come down and realized it and is ready to grapple with it and come on breaking points and talk to Sagar and Krystal about why it is that we keep electing idiots like herself, no. It's everyone else is an idiot. And she was this came from a conversation she had on Monday night at the 92nd Street Y in New York City. It was moderated by David Rubenstein, who asked basically if she would be interested in running as an independent, not as a Republican, but as an independent next year for president, if she was hypothetically given data, polling information that showed her run would hurt Trump. And she replied, kind of cryptically, she said, quote, "Look, I think that the country right now faces hugely challenging and fundamentally important issues. And what we've done in our politics is create a situation where we're electing idiots." The audience laughs, according to the Post. So Cheney continues, "I don't look at it through the lens of, is this what I should do or what I shouldn't do? I look at it through the lens of how do we elect serious people? And I think electing serious people can't be partisan. You know, because of the situation that we're in," she adds, "where we have a major party candidate who's trying to unravel our democracy," and I don't say that lightly, "we have to think about, all right, what kinds of alliances are necessary to defeat him? And those are the alliances we've got to build across party lines." This is a great example of when people in Washington talk about bipartisanship, what they generally mean is grift and corruption. Now, that isn't to mean bipartisanship doesn't have benefits. Of course it does. We're here on a show called Counterpoints that is predicated on the notion there is good conversations and constructive conversations that can be had across sort of the ideological divide and, in fact, are necessary to have. But what Liz Cheney wants is the exact opposite of that. She believes in bipartisanship for the sake of punching down at any threats to the political establishment, which is why she now has to deem everyone else an idiot who could possibly come with a challenge to her position on this. And I actually think it's really funny where she says particularly, quote, "I think electing serious people can't be partisan." This is a woman who hired an ABC producer to create a spectacle about the January 6th hearings. And by the way, as somebody who was covering January 6th on the ground, and it was one of the craziest things I've ever seen, one of the most tragic things I've ever seen for a number of reasons, I thought the idea that she would intentionally orchestrate a media circus around those hearings, which should have been very serious, should have genuinely been bipartisan and not bipartisan with Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney being your Republicans on the committee, but actually allowing different voices to come in, because we've seen, you know, as much as you believe Republicans may have run in the wrong direction when it comes to J6, so have Democrats. And there are serious things that should be discussed when it comes to the FBI, serious things that should be discussed when it comes to electoral law and whether or not anybody should be challenging it, whether it's Democrats in 2016 or Republicans in 2020. But being serious is not hiring an ABC producer and intentionally scripting, producing congressional hearings in prime time to be what she turned them into, which was not serious at all, and that she now has the audacity to say it's unserious, that everyone else is unserious but her, that she is the arbiter of what constitutes seriousness in politics is laughable. But I also wanted to zero in on her talking about this major party candidate who's trying to, quote, unravel our democracy. Unravel our democracy. Coming from Liz Cheney, the daughter of, you know who she's the daughter of, the one and only Dick Cheney, the architect of our policy in Iraq and Afghanistan, or one of the leading architects of our policy in Iraq and Afghanistan, which she has defended. To say that somebody who's actually tried to unravel those wars or to end those wars is the greatest threat to our democracy, or is a threat that is going to unravel our democracy, maybe that's that's true. Maybe you can make that argument about Donald Trump. You know who doesn't have a leg to stand on when it comes to making that argument is Liz Cheney, because things that actually do also unravel our democracy, our constitutional Republican system of government, are wars that are not properly predicated, where you send working class men to die thousands of miles away for a lie. That is a threat to our democracy. So for Liz Cheney then to be getting these this positive coverage in the Washington Post and the New York Times and wherever else she gets quoted, to be at the 92nd and to be at the 92nd Street Y in New York having this interview is pretty interesting too, because that's where oftentimes you see like media elites congregate and do these high-profile conversations where they're very thoughtful, and the NPR tote bag crowd can come and feel serious for a night. That is a statement on how absurd the political establishment in this country is, that when they decide the Iraq war has gone really badly, they'll sort of turn on it, right? But they'll push it and then turn on it. They'll help the intelligence community float bad information that predicates a war, and then when it starts to go poorly, turn on the war, turn on George W. Bush. But then when Donald Trump comes along and someone wants to go after him as this sort of blunt force object, the media is suddenly not just going to treat them as a utility, but actually vet them and say that this is a serious person, like this person does have the moral standing. And in this case, what she's saying is essentially what she wants to do to our democracy, to the sort of Republican system of government, is create threats from normal Americans who disagree with the political establishment, spy on them, and start more wars. So it sounds very serious to me, just not in the way that she thinks it is. By the way, it also sounds very idiotic to me, just not in the way she thinks it is. Krystal, the audacity of Liz Cheney.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.